Hello everyone, I'm Maki. Today, I'll be introducing a mobile suit from the Gundam Seed series. This is the M1A Astray. It was created through a project called Mobile Suit Variations. As the name suggests, it is a modified version of the M1 Astray. However, many finer details have also been changed, making it a mobile suit with lots of interesting features. Now, let's take a closer look at the M1A Astray. Please consider supporting my channel by subscribing for just 99 cents per month. As a thank you, you will receive a name badge and comment stamps. Now, let's begin our research. The M1 Astray is a mobile suit developed by the Orb Union for national defense purposes. The M1A Astray is a modified version of the M1 Astray design for space combat. However, whether the M1A should be considered an Orb mobile suit is a matter of debate. It was originally developed to defend on Menomi Hashira, an Orb-borne geostationary orbital space station. The design was finalized and the first unit completed in June of Cosmic Era 71. The exact date is unknown. Then on 16 June, Orb surrendered following an attack by the Earth Alliance forces. Following this, the Sahaku family, one of Orb's leading families, who had managed and operated the space station, broke away from Orb. According to the MSV story, they rebelled against Orb. The Sahaku family then continued independently to produce and deploy the M1A as a fighting force to defend the space station. The first M1A unit was completed before Orb's surrender, but it was not deployed until after the Sahaku family had broken away. However, the M1A's design data was also sent to the Orb homeland, where it was also manufactured. Although only a small number were produced, they were loaded onto the battleship Kusanagi in parts. The M1A units assembled in space went on to play an active role in later battles. As you know, the Kusanagi was a battleship that later belonged to the Three Ships Alliance. It served as part of Laos Klein's military force. This force had broken away from Orb. Therefore, although the M1A was designed and manufactured as part of Orb's national defense forces, it was actually operated by forces other than Orb. Now, let's take a look at the features of the M1A. The most notable feature is its blue paint. In Orb, this indicates a role. Blue indicates low-kist battle specification. The red M1 Astray was designed for operation across a wide range of battlefields, including Earth's gravity environment and zero-gravity space environments. In contrast, the M1A was designed for use exclusively in outer space. Its legs were redesigned for ambac operation. Ambac is a term that appeared in the Universal Century series, and the setting of the M1A made it clear that the same concept also exists in the world of Seed. It is a system that controls posture in outer space by moving the arms and legs. Similar elements also exist in the field of real-world space development. The M1A was designed with the idea of treating the legs as parts for carrying out ambac. As a result, its functional limit in the gravity environment is walking while supporting its own body weight. It cannot run or jump. It has sufficient mobility to maneuver independently in locations such as maintenance bases. However, the reaction speed of its legs has improved by 30% compared to the original M1. Additional thrusters have also been added. Its maneuverability in outer space has greatly improved. Next is the flight unit on its back. Large propellant tanks have been added. These tanks store additional propellant and coolant. The thrusters themselves have not changed in appearance. There is also no particular description of changes to the thruster specifications. In other Gundam series, mobile suits that are designed exclusively for space often have parts that are used in Earth environments removed. It is likely that the M1A Astray also omits parts designed for use in Earth's atmosphere and gravity environment. However, this is not clearly described in any source. Finally, the head has also been redesigned. Firstly, a protective component known as a chin guard has been added to the jaw area. This was added to protect the heavily reinforced head. The head antenna has been enlarged compared to that of the M1. In all, this antenna is known as the Integrated Information Interface Complex. The M1A's information processing ability has been greatly strengthened. Its electronic communication capabilities have been enhanced while in orbit around the space station. When combined with the beam rifle that I will discuss in the next section, it demonstrates tremendous combat capability. Another notable feature is that its entire blue-painted body resembles the Gundam Astray blue frame. Originally a prototype mobile suit developed by Orb, it was recovered and operated by the mercenary organization Sabantale. Guy Murakumo, often called the strongest mercenary of the cosmic era, would come to operate the blue frame. Consequently, the idea that the blue frame is a serious threat spread among soldiers and mercenaries. Since the M1A resembles the blue frame, there have been cases where it has been mistaken for the blue frame on the battlefield. Now let's take a look at its weapons. The first is the head Balkan gun. This is the same weapon found on the M1 Astray. It is used to intercept missiles and similar targets. Next is the beam saber. This weapon has the same model number as the one on the M1. However, the novel version of Seed Astray states that it has been strengthened. In this story, the M1A Astray fights the Astray Blue Frame second, which is piloted by Guy. After observing the M1A's beam saber, Guy evaluates it as considerably strengthened. He also concludes that even a shield with anti-beam coating would probably be destroyed after blocking it several times. Indeed, the blue frame's armor is severely damaged just from the M1A's beam saber grazing it. It is clear that it has been considerably strengthened. Next is the shield. It appears to be the same type of defensive equipment used by the M1. No source describes it as having been strengthened. Finally, we have the sniper tie-beam rifle. This is arguably the M1A's defining weapon. It is an improved version of the beam rifle found on the standard M1. It has been modified for ultra-long range sniping in outer space. Although its rapid-fire performance has been reduced, it has an extremely long firing range. Thanks to its built-in high-precision sensors and aim correction system, it is also highly accurate for sniping. Furthermore, its capabilities are enhanced through coordination with the head antenna. Information about changes to the beam's trajectory caused by the Earth's magnetic field is linked to the targeting system. This system is effective for defending a space station. Its maximum effective range is 400 kilometers. Guy also highly rates this shooting performance. In the story, it is described as extremely accurate shooting, and there is a depiction of beams passing right beside the mobile suits of the mercenary organization Sabantale. The text states that if mobile suits had a sense of smell, they would probably have smelled burning armor. The ability to shoot with such precision against Serpentail's mobile suits is surprising. That covers all of the M1A's basic armaments. However, as it was developed according to old military standards, it may also be capable of carrying the standard armaments used by orb-operated mobile suits. What role did the M1A play? The M1A units deployed on the battleship Kusanagi were provided to highly skilled pilots. Barry Ho was one of them. He was an ace pilot known as Ken Shin. Ken means fist. Shin means god. It was a nickname that praised Barry's abilities as a fighter with excellent martial arts combat skills. He took part in the battle to capture Zaft Space Fortress, Yakindue. As a member of the Three Ships Alliance, he fought to achieve the goal of stopping the war. Once inside the Space Fortress, Barry encountered Zaft mobile suits. His opponents were Two Gates units. Ultimately, he found himself fighting against extremely formidable enemies' multiple cutting-edge Zaft mobile suits. Barry immediately dropped his beam rifle and shield. This was because he judged that they would not function effectively inside the narrow fortress. He then made use of the M1's mobility and began close-range hand-to-hand combat. He grabbed the head of a gate with his arm and slammed it into the ground using a martial arts throwing technique. The gate lost its head in this attack. Seeing that the M1A had stopped moving, another gate approached. However, Barry lifted the disabled Gates' body. He then held the Gates' beam rifle. Zaft mobile suit weapons are characterized by the fact that weapons used by humans are redesigned to mobile suit size. In other words, they do not require an electrical connection and can be fired simply by pulling the trigger. Barry then fired the beam rifle. The approaching Gates lost its head in the attack. Barry carried out additional attacks on the Two Gates units that had lost their heads. First, he destroyed their joints, rendering them immobile. Next, he punched the cockpits. Although this punch was powerful, it was delivered with great precision. He made it impossible for them to escape by opening the cockpit hatch. The impact also knocked the enemy pilots unconscious. Barry guessed that they probably wouldn't wake up for an hour. Despite producing enough power to damage the frames of mobile suits, he controlled the destructive force precisely so as not to take the enemy pilots' lives. Kenshin was not just strong. He also had the ability to control his strength with great accuracy. So far, we have covered the basic information about the M1A. However, Destiny MSV adds even more. The Otsukigata, a modified version of the Murasame, was introduced, and new settings were added to the M1A. One of these settings states that the Otsukigata was developed for coordinated combat alongside the M1A. Both the Otsukigata and the M1A are equipped with high mobility and long-range sniping ability, and they were designed to work together to attack enemy forces from outside their range. After the Battle of Yakindue, it seems that the M1A was registered as an official mobile suit belonging to the old military. The Otsukigata was given powerful communication capabilities to enable it to coordinate with the M1A. These blue mobile suits were designed to brilliantly destroy enemies through long-range sniping. However, as I explained earlier, Barry Ho achieved the most notable success. Finally, let's introduce an event that occurred shortly after the aforementioned achievement. In the fight at Yakindue, Barry finally encounters Gate Sky. Incredibly, Barry defeats Gate Sky with a punch. The Gate Sky is an extremely powerful mobile suit equipped with phase shift armor. However, Barry's M1A punch destroyed the internal control system and stopped the Gate Sky's functions. This demonstrated that despite the increased defensive power of phase shift armor, it could still be neutralized by destroying the internal components. The impact, however, was far beyond what the designers had predicted, damaging the M1A's arm in the process. Naturally, given that the M1A was developed primarily for sniping missions, close quarters combat was not its intended role. That concludes this research. Which part of the M1A did you like the most? Personally, I found that despite being specialized for sniping, it performed well in close combat element very appealing. Thank you for watching until the end. I'll see you again in the next program.